preparing to live stream the meeting.
I see something that says live on YouTube. It's right there. I see it.
Yeah, I got it too.
Cool. All right. There it is. I'll go ahead and tweet out the link and everything real quick, and then we'll get started.
We'll see how many people are bored and hanging out at 4:00 in the afternoon on Thursday, just waiting to hop on YouTube.
Yeah.
My team's doing a deployment without me right now. Hi, team. Cool. All right. Hello and welcome to the Dallas Soccer Show. I'm Dustin Nation, and we've got Jonathan Ross with us here. How's it going, Jonathan?
What's up, Dustin?
And this episode, we've got Jimmy Maurer taking a break from quarantine routine to talk to us for a little bit. How's it going, Jimmy?
Yeah, all good. Just another day in paradise over here. Just struggling through it like everybody else, but we're all healthy here in my house with my kids, my wife and I, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, we're hanging in there.
Getting enough of that good family time, maybe too much.
Yeah. No, it's luckily we're kind of homebodies anyways. We enjoy spending time with each other, but it's definitely a lot. It's definitely a whole new level for us too. So it's a change, but we're pushing through.
So how old are your kids?
12, 6, 4, and 1. Our 6-year-old is turning 7 tomorrow, so he'll probably be mad if I don't say that. But yeah, so about to be 12, 7, 4, and 1. Yeah, thanks. I'll pass it along. He's very excited. He's at that great age, or he's our 4-year-old too just turned a week ago now, and he was just counting down the calendar for weeks. So yeah, they're excited. It's a lot of fun.
That's a pretty big age range. Do you have any family activities that actually spawn the whole kids?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's just my wife and I started real early. We were 18. We had our oldest son, and yeah, so they've gotten spread out just with life and the way things go, which is a lot of great positives in it. Like our oldest one helps us out a lot with the younger ones, and it's just a lot of fun and seeing all the different interactions they have. But it definitely is a challenge sometimes in terms of those activities to do something that obviously you're entertaining the young ones, but also try and do something that's stimulating for the oldest, where he's not just getting dragged around. So right now, I mean, I got a soccer tennis net in our driveway. We got a basketball hoop, and I got, we have like 2 different basketball hoops, one for the little kids, one for my older son and I that we can play horse on or whatnot. So we'll play tennis over the soccer net. We got like a little pad of a driveway that's pretty decent size. And so yeah, again, yeah, we're trying to get outside as much as possible. Luckily the weather's been pretty great the last few weeks overall. So been able to get outside a lot once the schooling's done.
I've seen some videos of you playing wall ball off the side of your house. What else they got you doing to kind of stay in shape and keep as ready as you can be?
Yeah, so soccer wise for the team, we're doing a lot, to be honest, a lot. So I mean, a lot of times it's 3-4 hours a day between the workouts, soccer's like technique, ball specific workouts, physical workouts in the afternoon and evenings, a lot of times on Zoom calls, doing that like twice a week. And then we'll have video analysis meetings where we'll get together in different groups. So like goalkeepers will get together, goalkeepers and defenders, the different small groups will get together, and coaches will send us videos, and we'll kind of have some time to tactically go through them, and then we'll get together on a Zoom call and discuss and debate the different tactical stuff. We're progressing even more now to focus. We were doing a little more just like big picture topics, like general ideas in terms of tactics and things we want to do. And now we're, as the time's moving on, we're going to progress a little bit more to league specific tactics and the way we want to play different types of opponents within the league. And, the coaching staff's been amazing, just trying to be as creative as possible to keep our minds and bodies stimulated, and try and, just like in every other aspect of life right now, try and make a positive out of a negative, and just try and get something out of this time that, we're set back a little bit.
I can imagine. I know that both Dustin and I are, we're working from home, but for the most part, our jobs haven't changed that much, right? Other than, actually, I mean, I'm busier than I've been in a long time, just because of the area of IT that I'm in. We're really, really busy because people are working remotely. But for somebody like you, this is way different than showing up to practice and working with your team and then going back home at the end of the day, or maybe doing that twice in a day. So I can only imagine the amount of creativity that has to go in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not easy. It's not easy for the coaching staff. So again, they've just been awesome to try and keep it interesting, because it's, we don't have a lot, we're all stuck at home. We can't go train together, even in small groups or anything. They were able to give us a little bit of equipment, but, we don't really have much at the house. Right. A lot of times it's, the easy thing for them to do would just be like, hey, go on these runs every day and just run, and give us runs or whatever. But they've been awesome of, again, keeping it as engaging and as creative as possible. So it's not just, a mental grind as well, where you're just out beating the pavement, running around. We've been able to keep it interesting that way with some of these Zoom calls, and then adding in some of that stuff that kind of looks silly, I guess, or whatever sometimes, but, smacking a ball against a wall all the time. It's like what we grew up doing as kids. I know I had a brick wall in my driveway when I was growing up in Atlanta. And I just spent hours out there just kicking the ball with, working on my feet, working on my hands, all sorts of stuff. And so it's just kind of a throwback to childhood at this point, when you got no one else to play with in the neighborhood.
They say that, like in Brazil and places like that, where the players come out very skilled, it's partially because of that, like, forced creativity of having to just make a playing field out of a parking lot and a wall. Like, I wonder if that's gonna have some positive benefits to maybe some of the way some of the players come out of this.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I know there's a lot of, I've read different articles on a lot of things like that right now, like talking about Shakespeare writing some of his works during quarantine, and creativity is spurred through boredom. It really turns you on that way. So, it could be. Hopefully the kids get spurred on and get out, just because they're so bored. They're forced to play more, get creative with it, work on their skills on concrete, on bad surfaces in their yards instead of perfect playing fields. When I was down in Chile, it was amazing just watching these kids playing parks, or even the academy team of the team I was on. The academy kids played on literally just a dirt field outside the stadium. It had white chalk lines all around it, and it was just dirt. But watching these kids take touches, basically juggle it down the field, because the field was so bad, it forces you into different things. And it's not ideal, but it does force creativity and change that perspective.
Well, speaking of Chile, let's kind of talk about how you ended up here at FC Dallas and how you got here. So you started out in kind of like the NASL scene, right?
Yeah. I don't know how. My story's kind of long. I don't know how much you want me to go into it, but yeah. So I played in the NASL. Out of college, I played in the NASL for the Atlanta Silverbacks, my hometown team. I got drafted to the New York Red Bulls. Was with them throughout preseason, but didn't end up signing a contract. Again, there's a lot of interesting twists and turns in the stuff. So it was actually interesting. So I was up there. The goalkeeper coach ended up getting let go during preseason. He was the one that drafted me, so that didn't go well. But then they ended up having a bad concussion injury or something with one of their goalies, and the other goalie had to go on international duty. So they released me, but then I didn't have a team. So then they signed me to a 1-week contract, and I actually was on the bench for the Red Bulls in their home opener in 2011. or not, or their league opener. It was in Columbus,
Right.
but anyway, it was just like it was just really weird. And after that, I went and I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to play. Ended up going to the Atlanta Silverbacks. I just kind of went on trial there. The general manager at the time just basically took me out to the practice field and took shots on me, and then signed me after that. So that's a funny story.
Tryout?
Yeah.
That was basically the tryout. I mean, he's an awesome guy. I'm still friends with him. He's a great guy. He is an academy coach with Atlanta United now. He's actually a Chilean guy. Just a coincidence, but great guy, Rodrigo Rios. But yeah, so I was there, and then after that, the money wasn't great. I was, I had my son at the time, my wife, so we were, I was coaching a lot. I was coaching a women's I was goalkeeper coach for a women's university in Atlanta, coaching a bunch of like youth club teams, just grinding to make ends meet and everything while I was playing that first year. And then, so after the season ended, at the time, the seasons were still pretty short. So I went up to Chicago on trial with the Fire because I knew the people up there. I had spent a summer in college with their PDL team. They had put me up for a summer there. So they had me in on trial, and they invited me to come back to preseason the next year with the Fire. But just out of the blue, again, soccer, like all these stories, soccer is just such a small world, like any industry, I'm sure, but soccer is just insane how small the world stuff is. So I ended up getting a call from basically a club coach from like my youth club when I was playing for Atlanta Fire. He was never my coach, but I knew him, the coaches in these youth clubs. And so he calls me, and he's a Hispanic guy. He's a Chilean guy. He calls me, he says, "Hey, I have a friend who's looking for a goalkeeper." And at the time, that's basically all he said. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And so he's like, "Hey, come have coffee with me." I'm like, "All right." So I go and I'm talking to him, and yeah, basically he unbeknownst to almost everyone in the club, he was an extremely, extremely famous Chilean soccer player and was a general manager of Union Española, the club where Mauro Diaz and Pablo came from. And like, I go down there with him, and people are like stopping him in the streets and recognizing him. And in Atlanta, people are always like, "Oh yeah, I love that guy. He's a great guy." But people don't realize that he was this big time player and really big personality down there. So anyways, long story short, he took me down there, went on trial, crazy experience, staying in like they call it a pension, but it's basically like a hostel. And
Did you know that you were on HGTV when you were down there?
Do I know? Yeah. I do. That was another interesting experience in itself. But yeah, so I mean, we were in preseason. Then I played in a preseason game against Colo-Colo. Went to penalty kicks. I saved 3 penalties, and we won. And I was all over the papers in the country and all this stuff. Like, who's this American kid? And so yeah, again, like signed the next day. But yeah, the HGTV was interesting. My wife basically just went on an expat blog because I went down without her and my son at first, since I was just on trial, and so she was on an expat blog trying to find out some information about schools and stuff. And this guy just messaged her. He's like, "Hey, I'm a producer. We're looking for people that are going to be moving to South America or something. Like, would you want to be on this show?" And so, yeah, it was a really interesting experience.
How many times have you had to watch it since then?
It's hilarious. I've never seen the whole episode. My wife like cringes so bad she won't watch it. And I've seen the whole episode, but just like in clips and pieces. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Just it's reality TV, so like they're pushing you to say certain things. So my wife just cringes at like the way they and it's not even bad, but how it's weird being on TV sometimes.
Yeah, people are always self-conscious when you see yourself. You're like, always worse than it really is.
Exactly.
So if you're wondering, I'm the person who watched the 3-minute episode today.
Okay.
I was like, oh yes, I saw the shortened version of it that's on the
Yeah.
HGTV website.
Yeah. 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 It's yeah, interesting experience seeing reality TV, what it's like on the inside there. So,
What was
yeah.
what was just the overall kind of experience living in Chile? Was there, was there things outside of soccer that were unusual or that, that you really liked?
So overall it was amazing. So I'll kind of start from that and work backwards because at the time it was not amazing at all. It was terrible for a lot of different reasons, just because it was so tough, but like it was just such an amazing experience, and like uh, just grew so much as a soccer player, my understanding of the professional game and how things work, and also just life and seeing the different culture, learning a new language, and all these things. But so again, just another interesting experience right off the bat. Get my wife and son from the airport. It's a long flight to get down there. You got to connect. I think they had to connect in Miami and then in Santiago and then to Concepcion. So it's like you have to connect a couple different times. It's like 14 or 16 hours altogether. I forget what it was, but it's long. And he was in kindergarten at the time. So anyways, they get there and they're
like a fun flight.
Yeah, it's rough. And so anyways, they get down there and they're off these flights, they're starving. So we go to eat and it's like 6:00, or 6 or 7 or something. And so we go out and I got an apartment like right downtown. It was great. And we go out and we're walking around, go to the first like decent restaurant we see, it's closed. Go to another one, closed. I had no idea the culture there, everything closes from like 3 to 6 or 3 to 7, because the dinner time there is like, you don't start eating dinner till 9 or 10.
Right.
It's which is normal, but it's just one of those funny things where like, how can you not get dinner at 6 or 7:00? It was just one of those culture shocks. You just, as a young American kid who's growing, only known the conveniences of America his whole life, to like little things like that of just stores not being open 24/7, or all these different things we're so used to here. It was a interesting eye opener right off the bat.
Did you guys get a car, or did you guys take public transportation the whole time? Or
we took public transportation the whole time. We took and it was really just buses, and they have basically they call them colectivos, which are basically like rideshare taxis. So it's like taxis are on like basically like a bus loop. There's different taxis that run loops, and you just get in and you just give them like a quarter, or like, I forget what it was, but it was like nothing. And if you just, it took a little while to figure out their routes, but like I would take them to training sometimes, or we would take the buses to the mall or different things. But yeah, it was all public transportation, but it wasn't like a subway system. It was all buses and taxis.
What year was this?
This was 2012.
Okay.
And so to keep going with it is, again, it's like funny because I have such fond memories of it, and like I feel great talking about it. But I mean, it was really, really tough because I didn't speak any Spanish when I went down there. I mean, I had, a high school level of Spanish, which is nothing really, especially in Chile. Their accent is really tough to understand. Even today, it's one of the tougher ones for me to understand a lot of times. But so, I mean, the first 3 or 4 months were really, really hard because no one on the team spoke English except for one player. I still friends with him today. Great guy, Andres Imperiale, played for San Jose Earthquakes for a bit. So I've stayed in touch with him and kind of connected him with a couple people and helped him to get over to the MLS. But anyway, so he's the only guy that spoke any English. So if he wasn't near me on the training field, I had no idea what was going on, because none of the coaches, none of the players, and no one in like the front office or anything really spoke any English either. So it was just, I mean, just really struggling trying to figure out what people were saying. Again, to backtrack, when I got picked up from the airport by the club's team administrator, he literally just pointed at me and was just like, you like, and was just doing like goalkeeper movements. I was just like,
Yes,
yep,
yes,
let's
that's
go.
me.
So it was,
YOLO.
yeah, it was crazy. And then I ended up tearing my shoulder. I was out 6 months. The club went through 3 or 4 different coaches, got relegated. Like, I mean, it was an insane year. Just, you know, and it was one of those tough things where the team obviously got relegated. So we started off bad in the year. So we had a Paraguayan guy who had been the starter for a year or two before as well. Was like not old, but you know, had been there for a few years, was an experienced guy. And so we were struggling. And so the coach was like, hey, like, you're going to get your shot. And we were going up to Iquique up in the desert in the north. And in the like training before the game, I went out and punched a ball in a set. We were doing set pieces the day before the game. And I was going to come out and I go to punch the ball. And when I hit it, it just hit weird. And I had already injured it and I was just kind of playing through. And I guess so I was like kind of slightly torn. And as soon as I like had been overstretched and punched, it just tore completely. I ended up sitting on the bench for the game and just the whole time being like, I can't even lift my arm up at all. And I was on the bench because we had already traveled. So it was one of those things. Like if our goalie went down, they would have had to put a field player. Like, it would have been insane. But anyways, it was really unfortunate because just the timing. I would have gotten my debut and a chance to play. And who knows what could have happened. But you know, that's life. And so it was crazy. It was crazy to experience a relegation battle and see the emotion and how devastating it is for the club, the players, the fans, everything. Again, just a really powerful learning experience of what that side of soccer is, and in other countries with that. It's crazy. So
What was the level of play like down there compared to your MLS experience?
It's really different style of play. Like, to me, it seemed a bit more like individualistic, a little bit slower, in terms of, you know, in the MLS, it's just fast paced, like athletic teams are flying and you don't have a lot of time on the ball. You know, I mean, at different times the games will change, but just overall, I think the MLS is a lot more physical and can be faster, where down there you can seemed like guys had a little bit more time on the ball, but the technical quality, I mean, who knows? Again, I was still so young and still so inexperienced professionally. If I went back down there now, maybe I'd view it in a different way. But down there too, I mean, it's the stadiums and the fields a lot of times aren't great. So it's just different. It's just different. Like, it has its own challenges. You go up to the north into some of these teams in the desert, like Cobrasal, and I mean, you cannot breathe off the airplane. I mean, the altitude there and the dryness. I mean, it was again, just in the warm-ups, you're just really out of it, pretty intense. And then you get all the way down to the south, and it's like, depending on where you're going, there's a team, and we played in, I think maybe it was preseason, Porto Montt, which, I mean, is almost into like Patagonia. So it's, I mean, just cold and wet. So you got everything on the spectrum with the length of that country and the different climates. And so, I mean, yeah, it was great. It's a great country. The people there were just super nice, super welcoming, you know, even just in the parks and the streets, really safe country. You know, my wife and I and our son, we really enjoyed our time there overall.
So then good.
Have you gone back? So since your time, have you guys gone back as like
No,
for a vacation or anything?
We want to so bad, but honestly, like with our kids and our schedule,
With 4, it'd be tough, man.
And yeah, and honestly, it's more just, we just don't have any time. The only time we ever get off, it's going to see family. You know, we just, like, we haven't been on vacation, like, besides going to see family, and since our honeymoon basically in 2010. just whenever we have time off or different things, just especially because our kids are in school, so we can't. It's not like some of the other guys that just as soon as the season's over, they can go do whatever they want for the month or two. But with kids in school, you can't just, especially as they get older, you can't just take off for a month and miss that much school. So, we basically get the 2-week Christmas break, and that's our time to go see, my wife and I's parents, brothers and sisters, all the, my wife, I have a decent sized family too, but we just, our kids have tons of cousins on both sides. It's got like almost 30 cousins between the two sides. So, and a lot of them are Atlanta. So we just love getting to get them together and let them hang out. They just are really close, which is special. So
cool. So apparently my kids have had enough of quarantine for the day. So I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a broad.
I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, and you got 3 boys, right?
I have 3 boys and then a baby girl. Yep. Yeah, they're fighting nonstop. Just absolute especially our 2 middle ones. Oh man, they're awesome because they just play together all day, but they'll get into it for sure.
Oh, now I do hear it. All right. That one. Yeah, there we go.
So fast forward, your Chile time ends and you come back and you get signed with the Cosmos.
Well, if you want the full story, which again is just super.
If there's more interesting stuff in between, let's hear it.
Yeah. So again, just small world stuff. So this actually ends up being a little bit of a connection to come to Dallas. So I came back. I had a couple offers to go back to Chile after the team got relegated, but my wife was pregnant, and the offers that we had were in really small towns. And just with her being pregnant and small towns, we weren't really sure if we wanted to do it. And then, and then basically I got a call and I got an offer to go to the Rapids. This is when Oscar was there. So I go there, and my understanding was I didn't actually talk to Oscar. I was talking to the goalkeeper coach, which is how it worked, like how it seems to work a lot of times in MLS. When I've talked to different teams over the years, it's usually that way. But anyway, so I talked to the goalkeeper coach. We kind of had a contract set up, like in general terms, from what I understood. And from my understanding, it was just like, you come in for a week or 2, as long as you're healthy, blah, 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 you're good. And so again, just sports and soccer in general, like you never know what's going on. And so I went in, ended up getting drawn out. I don't know what the real situation was. This is just how it was for me, but just kind of kept getting told to hold off. And then, again, right before the season started, similar to when I was with the Red Bulls, they decided to sign another guy. And so I was like, just stuck again. But Oscar was great. It was really, honest and good with me. I think it just might've been one of those things where him and the goalkeeper coach might've been on different pages or something. I'm not 100% sure, but Wilmer Cabrera was the assistant coach. And so they were great in terms of, they were like, look, we think you're really good. We just, we can only sign one, and we can't sign you, but we have a friend who's starting up a really interesting project in New York. If you'd like to go there, like, we'll call and make a recommendation. And so Wilmer called Gio Savarese, because Wilmer and Gio played for the Long Island Rough Riders together back in the day. So they're friends. And so Wilmer was able to do that for me, which I really appreciated. And so I went over there to the Cosmos, and yeah, had an amazing 5 years, some really interesting experiences there. But yeah, that was just kind of a really interesting sidetrack to doing that. And, my first experience with Oscar before coming back, which, it was very interesting. Hold on. You're on mute, Dustin.
You're muted.
Oops. I do this all day long. You think I'd learn by now?
Yep.
Oh, wait. I
All
was
good.
just saying that's interesting. Almost step that I hadn't heard before. That's
Yeah.
really, really
And it's,
cool.
yeah, it's crazy too. People, people just don't know what happens with a lot of us. Cause I mean, you're not broadcasting it when you get, basically rejected from a club, but
Right. Yep.
like, it's even crazy too. Cause I actually even went on after between going to the Cosmos and being with the Rapids, I actually went on trial with the Charleston Battery and was about to sign there because I was waiting to hear about the Cosmos stuff. Cause like Wilmer had put the call in and I had talked to Gio, but nothing had really happened. So I went to the Battery, and then ended up getting a call from Gio while I was there. And but yeah, soccer's really really wild time, and yeah, you just got to keep like I was on like we were at a call with the academy goalkeepers. I don't know, I can't keep track of hours, let alone days at this point.
Time
but
has no meaning anymore.
yeah, but anyways, we were talking to them, and it was awesome. We were kind of sharing some of our experiences, and between Kyle, myself, and Jesse too, like just in soccer, you just have so many moments where people basically reject you or tell you you're not good enough for different things. And like the guys who make it are the guys that just keep going. And it's just, even at the time, I didn't like think of it that way at the time, but, it's when you look back, there really are so many moments like that.
So when I had a question about so when you joined the Cosmos and like I guess one of your first games you were in the championship match against the Silverbacks, right?
Yeah, I didn't play in that game though,
Right, but
but
then you made your debut against them.
but I made so yeah, it was one of those weird things where because of the way the season was set up, it was just a regular season and then a final. There wasn't playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually playing the Silverbacks in the last game of the season, and then the final, no matter what happened in that game. We're playing them back-to-back games. So so Gio made the decision to, we basically rotated our whole lineup, and Kyle Rainish, who had, he played in the MLS a long time. So he was our starter that first year with the Cosmos, and he had a great year. But so, Gio rotated. And so, yeah, I got my debut the week before the final, but it was in Atlanta against the Silverbacks, which was pretty cool. Just having a lot of friends and family be there for my debut with the Cosmos was really cool. And then again, the next week we won the championship there, which was awesome. Marcos Sena hit an unbelievable volley to win it for us. And it was great start to the 5 years there.
What's it like preparing to play against one of your former teams? Like, take us in behind the scenes and in the mind of a professional athlete. Like, you've seen a Rudy come back to Dallas, and Ulloa come back to Dallas, and Fafa this season made his debut against Philly. Like, is it a different mental switch in your mind as you're preparing that week, or is it business as usual?
I would say for the most part, it's really business as usual. I would say but it really depends on your experience there, like how long you're with the club, what your relationship was with players, fans, different, all those different relationships. And then maybe the biggest part of all that is how you leave, is if you feel, whether it's from the, if you didn't want to get cut or get if it was a contract thing, or if you get traded and you weren't expecting it. There's all sorts of different complexities that can really change that. So I definitely know there's some guys that are just playing like a ball of fire against their former teams because they are are pissed. They're really
Yeah.
unhappy about how things ended or whatever, and they are motivated, like seriously motivated to play against those teams. And then some guys, it's they have those emotions the opposite way, where they're just like, man, I love this team, everything was so great, and then it was just business and we moved on. And so it's like a fondness, and it's like a homecoming when they go back and play. And it's kind of like fighting those emotions, but it's with that stuff, it's more business as usual.
It's something
yeah.
definitely unique with sports, right? It's not like you know, if I got fired from my job, I could get a chance to come against my, you know, maybe you could compete on a sale or something like that. But yeah,
Right.
it's kind of unique. So how did you
Yeah.
end up at FC Dallas? So what was it that brought you to attention here? How did you end up getting recruited?
Yeah. So again, so like I knew Oscar from, shortly from that experience, and I knew Fernando a bit. Just I think we'd crossed paths in the past when he was with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, maybe. And Luis Muzi would work for the Strikers, so I'd talk to Luis about that stuff when I had come here. Again, so soccer's pretty small world, and so while I was with the Cosmos, basically almost every year I kind of like flirted with different MLS teams. Even though Oscar had come to Dallas at the time, I had talked to the Rapids again because, and again, so the goalkeeper coach when I went to the Rapids was Dave Durr.
Oh,
So
really?
again, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Dave was awesome, really great guy. And so Dave had an assistant goalkeeper coach who then became the head goalkeeper coach because Dave decided to move on. And so that's Chris Sharp. And so Chris had called me after they had made some roster moves, and I think Oscar had left, and things were changing, so they had made some roster moves. So he was seeing if I was interested in going signing with the Rapids again after that first year with the Cosmos. And so then talked to them, different things, ended up working out a multi-year deal with the Cosmos that I was happy about. Rainish was leaving. So I was, I made the decision basically to take, I wanted to play. And I knew if I went to the Rapids at that time, I wasn't, I was going in as a number 3, wasn't going to be playing. So I knew I needed games at that point. And then after that, I don't remember if it was the next year or 2 years later, I talked to Kansas City for a bit. And I guess by that point, I'm not sure exactly how or who did it, but so Dallas ended up having my discovery rights. The way the league works with discovery rights, they had my discovery rights for like 3 or 4 years. So actually kind of stopped a couple potential deals because they had my rights, which is crazy. But yeah, so I talked to Kansas City for, various reasons, didn't work out. And then I was actually really close to signing with Portland another year. And again, just the way the league structure is, I wasn't able to sign the deal. And then finally it just, the timing was right. The Cosmos weren't an option anymore, unfortunately, with the way the NASL had gone as a league and all that stuff. That's terrible. But yeah, so it just worked out to finally make the jump and move to MLS. And I'm happy. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy we got here. Dallas has been awesome. Really enjoyed the club and the city and all the people here, the fans and everything. It's just been great. So, but anyways, wild ride, twists and turns, ups and downs. Yeah.
It's quite interesting that they had that FC Dallas had your discovery rights. I mean, it's kind of seems almost random, right? The FC Dallas of all places, unless there was some sort of one of those connections somewhere. Somebody said, "Hey, we should keep an eye on this guy."
Yeah, well, again, I mean, like I knew a lot of the people. We had a little bit more. Not that I had a relationship with anyone that we were, I didn't know anyone too personally in terms of Fernando or Luis or Oscar, but they all knew me, and I knew them enough. Like if we saw each other, we would say hello or something. But so they knew me enough. And then the obvious one that I haven't touched on, but Drew Keishan, our goalkeeper coach, he was in Atlanta for a long time when I was growing up. So I was actually taking private lessons from Drew when I was in high school. Again, just small world. It's insane. So I would train with Drew like once a week, probably like private lessons. and it's like Sean Johnson, who plays for New York City,
Mhm.
Joe Bendick, who's in Philly now, but he's been, Toronto, Portland, Orlando. So me, Sean, and Joe, we would train with Drew like once a week, sometimes twice a week, probably. I don't even remember, but yeah. So Drew knew me pretty well, and so yeah. Another connection, another reason why they might have had my discovery rights, and again, it's just, a lot of these things where it's at the end of the day stuff. It's a business, and they were making smart decisions from
Right.
them, and in the end, it you just got to make it work, and it all worked out great in the end. So at the time, there were certain moments I was pretty frustrated, but yeah, we're good. So
Now you find yourself in two locker rooms, right? With the FC Dallas locker room and the North Texas SC locker room. What is your locker room role, if you will? Like, what's your role in each one of the locker rooms, and how's it differ?
Yeah, it's interesting.
How do you?
So I guess I'll say for each one, but I mean for the first team, I'm competing to play. That's first and foremost. Is I'm competing with Jesse, and I'm trying to take his job, if and get games and be the starter, and help the team in that way. And by doing that, I'm helping Jesse be at his best every day. That's the way I take that on. And then with that, just with being, one of the older guys on the team, and have been fortunate to have a lot of different experiences, and, try and listen to a lot of the veteran players I've been lucky to play with, that I take those experiences, and I try and, be a leader, leader in the team. Yeah, I feel like guys, I'm not necessarily the most outspoken guy in the locker room. I'm pretty quiet, probably. But I get going on the field. I'll yell at guys on the field, and try and make sure training as a team, try and make sure training is pushed to a good level, and make sure our intensity is high and guys are focused, and make sure everyone's competing the right way in training. And then, yeah, right now I'm super busy talking to guys all the time, because I'm the union rep for one of the union reps for the team. So that's another role. Talking about locker room stuff. There's just,
I can imagine there's lots of interesting discussions going on right now. Well, I won't ask you about them, but yeah, with there being work stoppages, and I can only imagine.
Yeah, I can't really touch on it, but a lot of conference calls. It's a lot of conference calls, a lot of time having discussions and meetings and different things. But
Is
yeah,
that something
it's,
you were just voted on as, or how did that come about?
yeah. So the players vote. We vote on 3 guys. So it was me, Matt, and Ja'Cory. And then just the one Ja'Cory left. Just everything's been kind of moving so fast. We haven't had a vote for another guy, but yeah. So right now it's me and Matt, and the players vote on who it is. You kind of just say whether you're interested or not to do it, and then the players vote on.
Do you have like a campaign with campaign signs?
Just posters everywhere. I was slipping bribes to guys,
Do a lot of the players? I know a lot of them have new kids. Like Reto's got a new kid, and Mikey's got a new kid. Like
Santi.
Yeah, do they come to you for parenting advice, or like what to expect when your soccer player is expecting?
Yeah, it's a new book. You heard about my book coming out?
I have sources.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say advice. It's just more just kind of maybe like laughing of, complaining to each other, like, man, you can listen to what just happened to me yesterday, or, like just the classic parenting, like little bit of venting of just like, man, this is tough, or, when do the kids start sleeping 4 hours straight, or those little things. But we're all adults. Most of us have different support structures where we're not necessarily coming to like really ask advice, but good conversations and good jokes about it for sure.
What about? Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll let you get some questions in.
I was gonna say. So right now, how's the schedule work for you and your wife at home these days? So if you guys like, do you have time when you're set aside when you're saying these are my work hours where I'm focused on soccer, working with the teams, getting my training in, and are you trying to keep up more of a rigid schedule, or is it just a bit more fluid than that?
It's pretty fluid right now because just there's scheduling stuff that's just not in my control, in terms of different meetings changing from the team right now, just because we're even at this point, we've kind of gone through phases where you're hoping it's just a couple weeks, and then so just as the progression's gone, like the coaches have been altering the schedule for very good reasons, but just with that, it kind of changes our schedule a little bit, and then different conference calls or different things I'm on. But I guess generally speaking, my schedule right now is I'm waking up at like 5 or 5:30. So I'm also working on my MBA right now. So I'll wake up at like 5 or 5:30, do like 30 minutes to an hour of reading for that. And then I'll start my workout right about 7, so I can be done by 9 for the kids' school to start. Then we do the kids' school stuff from about 9 to 1, and then get them outside, usually if it's nice, do some stuff outside. And then, a lot of times we all have another Zoom meeting or different things kind of between 1 and 3. A lot of times it ends up being, or, conference calls. It just seems like during that window will be some other stuff, kind of that more variable stuff. And then we start getting the kids ready, dinner stuff ready. My wife needs to start cooking. She does all the cooking, thank goodness, because I can't do that. But she's amazing. And so, and then I'm watching the baby and stuff so she can get that stuff ready. And then we got the bath time and bedtime routines. It's kind of, and probably sometime between like 5:30 to 8, and then like between 8 and 10, catching up on some other stuff, trying to help with some laundry or cleaning, catching up with just that everyday house stuff, maybe some more work with my MBA studies, and then if we're lucky, maybe we'll sneak in a little show or something. But and then trying to get to sleep around 10 because
5 o'clock comes soon.
5:30 comes early.
And a lot of times we've been doing these 6 o'clock Zoom workouts a couple times a week too, so that's thrown in there that my wife loves when she's trying to get dinner ready. So
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You guys try out any crazy new recipes? Since you guys are all at home, it's to be creative.
Man, I don't think so. My wife she has a great range of different things. So, like she made this amazing like wonton soup the other day. She makes all sorts of stuff: Italian, Asian, like Latin. So
very cool.
It's all over the place, but it's always good, and it keeps it fresh for us. So
always important.
Yeah.
So I'm a big listener to the Peter Crouch podcast, and
okay.
I don't know if you've heard that.
No, I haven't.
But he does about an episode on different subjects, and he had a goalkeeper episode where he was talking about goalkeepers, and what he kind of characterized them as these crazy people that kind of train over by themselves and then join the team at the end, and everyone's kind of like stays clear of them because they're kind of crazy. How that's kind of a long intro into like how much influence does Lucci have over the goalkeepers, and how much integration is there with the first team, and then how does that differ from the way Oscar did things?
So some of this, to be honest, I can't really speak on, because I think a lot of that stuff kind of goes into, with a lot of coaches, they do a lot behind closed doors in terms of like they manage that stuff within coaching meetings. So that way, like the position specific coaches don't have like the head coach looming over them, or like in case they don't, like they get all that stuff sorted out in meetings. I feel like a lot of times to where, I don't think I've ever been on a team where the head coach has said much to the goalkeepers in terms of anything like technique wise. Like, they're obviously saying stuff when we're doing 11v11 tactical progressions before a game of specific actions, or the way the other team is going to press, or what the other team's going to do, both defensively and offensively, just in general terms. But again, a lot of time I haven't really been with a team where the head coach has been overly involved with goalkeepers in terms of, again, just like training type things, because we are often off by ourselves, working on it's just very different, very specific. But with that being said, Lucci has been more than any team I've been on in terms of integrating us into the team sessions, in terms of just making sure we're really working on our feet to play. A lot of times he sets up the drills, because I've been on teams where we've been integrated, where we'll go and take part in the drills with the field players just to work on the foot skills and techniques that way. But the thing Lucci does that's newer, is that he almost sets up the drills so that we can get actions with our feet, but in more realistic positions for a goalkeeper with the way we play. So like we'll do a positional game, but we'll be kind of locked into a specific area where, we're never going to be in the middle of the field where we have to deal with players behind us. We are dealing with seeing the field, having to play really quick feet, find the right angles, find the right passes based on different pressures and, tight spaces, but not necessarily just thrown in to play a general possession game where, again, you're going to end up in, a position with a guy on your back and you're holding him off, or, something that's just never going to happen in a game. You got muted again, Dustin.
Dad gummit. I've got this like circus going on. I'm trying to keep you guys from having to hear three girls shouting loudly.
No worries.
Jonathan, you got anything else?
No, man. Nothing I can think of.
All righty. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know we've chronicled. It's a busy time for everybody. So we certainly appreciate you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I enjoyed talking to you guys. Hope you guys are staying safe and maybe more importantly, sane at this point.
Doing our best.
That's probably the harder of the two.
It seems to be the one we have more influence on, I guess, is where my mind goes with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. If you enjoy this episode, you can find us online at DallasSoccerShow.com. You can see us online or on Twitter as @DallasSoccerShow. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.